back to a new video. Today I'm late, but I'm doing my June wrap up for you guys so that you know what I read and I can recommend them to you and see if maybe you might also be interested in reading them. Y'all know how the wrap ups go. So it was actually a really good month. I'm getting back like on my usual like reading grind. I read 7 books. I think the average rating off the top of my head maybe was like 4.4 something stars, 2,700 pages. It'll be on the screen somewhere how much stuff I read. But let's go ahead and get into it. It was mostly Kindle, only one physical book this month, and there's a reason for that. And we're gonna get into that right now. I'm gonna start with physical books. The only physical book for the month of June was Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong. This was the book club read for Endless Amount of Books over on Fable, K&I's book club. The link is in the description if you want to go and join. Right now we are reading Children of Anguish and Anarchy, which just came out on June 25th. So come on over there and read that with us. Unless you haven't read the first 2 books, then I recommend you read those first, and then if we're still reading it, come join us and read. Anyway, so like I said, Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong was the only physical book for this month. It took me a while to read it. I don't know what it is about Chloe Gong's books, but for some reason it takes me a little while to get into them, to get into the story. There's a lot of like complicated political things going on in her books, especially in this duology, Foul Lady Fortune and Foul Heart Huntsman. There's a lot of like political stuff to keep up with, as well as like what's going on with the main characters. And this one, as opposed to her other duology where we're basically just following Juliet and Roma, in this story, while we are following mostly Rosalind and Orion, we're also following Oliver and Celia, and we're also following Phoebe and Silas. So we have all of these stories that we have to keep track of, with little sprinkles of what's going on with the villain of the story in between. But I gave this 4 stars. I wanted to give it 3.5. I think I gave Foul Lady Fortune a 3.5. I wanted to give this book a 3.5. But I gave it a 4. Just because I give, most of the time I give extra points for writing. If I really like the writing in the book, you might get a little bump up just a little bit. And Chloe Gong, she writes very beautifully, very vividly. It's just these stories tend to drag on. I tend to lose interest. There tend to be like filler chapters that I feel are unnecessary. I felt like the way this wrapped up was a little too like sugary sweet, candy coated for me, especially compared to Our Violent Delights and These Violent Ends. I always get those mixed up. I feel like I did just now. Anyway, it didn't end like so sugary, and I was okay with that. These, like, the first book ended on like a cliffhanger, of course, and then this book is just like, I don't know. And then something about some of the relationships seem a little forced, especially considering the events of the story, which I don't want to give away if you are interested in reading this. But I will recommend the duology. Overall, the story was good. But yeah, so now we'll move on to books from Kindle, which I have a decent amount to talk about. So, first book I'm going to talk about that I read on my Kindle is Rhythms Blues. Rhythms Blues was very good. Kimberly Brown is very quickly becoming like one of my top 3 contemporary urban romance authors right now. But it's her, Natasha Bishop, A.E. Valdez. That's my big 3. I told y'all that last month I finished up her Giroux Family series, and she had a book that came out, I think Rhythms Blues came out in June. So I read that. Rhythms Blues is about rhythm, of course, and she gets into a relationship with a guy that she went to high school with that was like kind of like the shy, quiet, people made fun of kid, and now he's like this very successful rapper, and they meet up. I think it's at a concert maybe, and they get into a relationship, but over the years, I think it's 3 years, of course, his ego starts to get to him. He starts to change, become somebody she doesn't recognize. His label wants him to have like a fake relationship with this, I can't remember, lady something. I ain't like her, so her name is not worth remembering. But his label wants him to do all of this stuff that he's not necessarily saying no to. But he's not saying yes, but he's not saying no, which is the problem. And he has the girl just all in the house. He's on a podcast talking about, oh, they asked me to be in a relationship, and he basically says not really. So she ends up leaving. Standard Hotel, and in comes Channing, who Channing is knocking on Rome's door, like, to try to beat him out for my #1 book boyfriend. But Rome is holding fast. Asher is holding fast. I think Channing is gonna be up there in the top 3. I don't know where yet. I gotta rearrange it, but Rome is still #1. It's between Channing and Asher for that #2 spot. But anyway, Channing is a record producer who meets rhythm, but does not realize who she is, and that she's the ex-girlfriend of this rapper whose album that he's currently producing. So things get a little messy or whatever, but not like anything super crazy. Like, we're not talking about like you made a fool of death with your beauty levels of messy. If you haven't read that book, go read that book. That book is wild. But anyway, so I gave Rhythms Blues a 5. I think Rhythms Blues was the only 5 I gave out for this month, but that book was very, very good. Kimberly Brown, as usual, she doesn't disappoint. Next book I read was Bespelled, which is the sequel to Bewitched, which I read back in May, and I talked to y'all about that. Bespelled, that got a bump up from Bewitched. I think I gave Bewitched 4, so Bespelled got a 4.5. I like the writing. I think I talked to you about how the writing was kind of like in that book. The writing was like miles, light years better in Bespelled than it was in Bewitched. The story was great. We actually find out what happened all those millennia ago between the 2 main characters. Their names are slipping my mind. I'm reading so much these days, and the characters blend together. It's wild. But we find out exactly what happened. There are some other things at play. The little ritual that was interrupted in the first book becomes like the main focal point, kind of, because the people who she interrupted are looking for her now. It's just a lot more going on in the story that's just a lot more substantial, and I loved it a lot more. That definitely got a lot better in the sequel, and I'm just hoping that, I think there's another one. I don't know how many are going to be in the series, but there's another one coming out, so I'm just going to assume that they're going to get better and better and better. So yeah, 4.5 stars for Bespelled. Very, very good. Oh, characters' names just came to me. Celine, Memnon. Celine and Memnon. That's the names of the characters. My mind. Wow. Okay, next book was Behind the Scenes by Christina C. Jones. Christina C. Jones. This is the first book I've read from her. It got a 4 from me. I liked it. It was okay. This was like another contemporary urban romance book. I'm gonna have to look up the characters' names so I can tell y'all while I'm talking about the book, so give me a second. Got the characters' names. Logan and Pierre. So Logan and Pierre meet. They have a car accident in the middle of the night. And then it turns out that Pierre is Logan's new client. I think the most interesting thing about this book for me was the relationship with Logan and her parents, and Pierre's past and the things, his demons that he's battling, you know, because of his past. The romance was kind of like okay for me. It wasn't like, I guess it wasn't, I don't know what it was. It was something missing from the romance aspect of the book. I still enjoyed it. It was still very good. I just enjoyed some of the, like, I guess these were secondary. I guess I enjoyed some of the secondary aspects a lot more than I enjoyed the main, like, romance standpoint of it, which is not to say that it wasn't good. It's kind of like a slow burn romance. The whole, you're my boss, we're gonna, even though they've done, like, after their accident, they had, you know, a little fling, but then found out they were working together. Logan drew a line. So it was one of those, like, you're my boss, I'm not trying to get into all that and get messy. So it was, like I said, it was a slow burn kind of thing, even though they both got somewhat kind of feelings, but they both have other things that are, like, holding them back. Logan has issues with her family, and then Pierre has his sobriety journey that he's going through. So it's a lot of things going on, but I gave it a 4. It was okay to me. I might pick up another one of Christina C. Jones's books just to see if I like it a little bit more. Maybe this one just wasn't the best one for me to start with, but it still got a 4. It was still okay. Next book is A Justified Love Affair, again by Kimberly Brown. This was, so most of these, like, contemporary romance books are part of series but are also standalones. So this one is part of a series, but I think it's like the second one in the series. So it follows Emmanuel and Racine is married, but she found her husband cheating with some bimbo in their bed, trash. And they she has this situation where every Friday she gets dressed up, she look good, and she go out to like make him nervous, make him think she's out here doing something, but she's really just like going to a coffee shop. And then she ends up meeting the owner of the coffee shop's brother one night. They hit it off. They once again, another little one night stand thing. But Emmanuel, who's usually like out here in these streets, is starting to like really like her. And but it's complicated because she's still married, trying to get her husband to divorce her, but he won't sign the papers, he won't move out of the house. He's just there, just trying and begging and pleading, and it's just it's a mess. But that one got a 4, I think. I gotta keep, hold on. Yes, that book got a 4. That was another one that I thought was just kind of okay. Usually Kimberly Brown's books get 5s for me, but for some reason, maybe it was because this was like, I usually try to read the books in order. I don't know if that necessarily is the reason why. Something about it just didn't necessarily click with me for me to give it a 5, but it was a 4. It was still good. It was still a nice, quick little read, something romancy to like wet the palate. What am I talking about? But it was good. It still got a 4. So yeah, Kimberly Brown is still going strong. No problems. Next book I read was Untouchable by Sean. This book, I'm just now realizing, had another Pierre in it. Pierre and Tallulah. This book had me just, I don't know. I think there was a disclaimer in the front of the book that was like, this main character might piss you off, like, in a sense. It was like, if you're not in the main characters that are making these weird decisions that like, you know she's not supposed to, or she's frustrating you, this is not the book for you to read. And I went ahead and read it anyway. And I was frustrated, but then, like, you can't be too upset with her. She's dealing with some, like, abandonment issues and some trauma from her past. So you kind of got to understand where she's coming from. She's trying not to get hurt. She's trying to protect herself, protect her heart, protect her peace, which I can understand. But it was still so frustrating. And Pierre is just as frustrated. Like, you know that this girl has her little rules in place, that she don't get too involved with people, yet you still, like, pleading your case, telling her you love her, all this other stuff, and she just is not trying to hear it. She's not trying to hear it, Pierre. She don't want to hear that right now. Like, she don't want to hear it. If you was gonna do all that, you shouldn't have, like, been okay with the situationship, which y'all can sleep together, but nobody can catch feelings, and they've been friends for like 20 years or something like that. That book got a 4. Once again, something about it, I don't know if it's just because I was frustrated with Tallulah and Pierre. I don't know if it's just because I felt like, while they both had issues, they just needed to took some time apart, but it wasn't enough. Y'all need to, like, stay away from each other. Like, it just felt like something was amiss with that. Once again, there's a sequel to it. I forget what it's called. I don't know if it involves the same characters, but I'm gonna read that next, because I've been dying to read Sean books, and that was the first one I picked up. That was the one I had downloaded from Kindle Unlimited. So I'm going to pick up another one and see how I like that one. Just like with Christina C. Jones, I'm sure I'll love it. It's just maybe I started with the wrong book. And the last book of the month, which is like the biggest surprise for me. This book, huge surprise, was The Foxglove King. So The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten is a fantasy story. Now, if you were to go onto my Goodreads and scroll to November, December of 2022, you'll see that I read 2 books, a duology, For the Wolf and For the Throne by Hannah Witten. And For the Wolf, I had for the longest, I was like, I gotta read this book. I'm so, like, drawn to this book. But for some reason, it took me a while to get to it. But when the time finally came and I picked it up, I was so excited, but I was like, something about the story mechanics was confusing. It also, I don't know. Like, I think when I read For the Throne, it was in December of that year, and I got like the flu, like really, really, really bad. So it took me a long time to get through that book, and I'm trying to read it while I'm sick, so maybe that's part of it. But the first one, like, it's just overall something about the story just seemed weird. It seemed like there was information missing, stuff wasn't explained very well. I don't know if it was just me. I don't know if I need to go back and reread it. I really don't feel like doing that, but maybe I need to, because it was just something about that duology that just was like, huh? Like, what's going on? So I was extremely apprehensive about reading another one of her books. I saw The Foxglove King, I think, at Books A Million one day, and I was like, oh, she has another book out. I won't be reading that. But I saw it on Kindle Unlimited, and there's this like Kindle points thing. Is it points, or it's like you get these rewards throughout the month? If like you read for a whole weekend, then you get this banner. You read for a whole week, or however many days, you get this banner. If you do this, you get this. And one of the things on there was if you read the first book of a customer highly rated series, then you get that banner. I was like, okay, I don't know what it is about me. If there are things to collect within something, I want to try to get it all. So I was like, let me go ahead and see what books are part of this. And they had a few that I was like, okay, yeah, maybe. And then they had The Foxglove King, and I was like, man, I really want this banner. But I don't want to read this book. I don't know what it was. I just did not want to read that book. But I was like, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I don't got to pay for it, because a lot of them on there are kind of to pay for. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and borrow it and see where it goes. And I was very shocked at how much I loved it. The writing was better, the world building was better, everything made sense, everything was explained in a way that was comprehensible. It was really good. So it's about Lore, and she's a poison runner for her adoptive mothers, but then she ends up getting captured, kidnapped by the priest Exalted, who was like this, like, there's the king and he's right under the king. And turns out that she's been being watched her whole life because they need her power. She has mortem powers that she's had. Most people like come into their powers of mortem when they're basically on the, like, basically about to die or on the throes of death. But she's had her since birth with no like severe traumatic incident having happened to her. So they need her because these villages are being like pillaged, and whole entire villages are dying, and they need to know why. So the priest and the king, they want to hire her as a spy, and they want her to get close to the prince Bastion, and because they think he's a traitor, that he's working with the neighboring kingdom Kyrithia, I think I'm saying that right, and they think that he's bringing about this plight to their kingdom or whatever. So get close to him. We're gonna put you into the court as the cousin of the Duke of Remote, or the Duke of Balgia. His name is Gabe. Gabe is one of the Presque Mort, which is basically like a monk who works in the church with the priest Exalted. They all have the power of mortem, and they control the mortem so it doesn't spread and all of this stuff. And he actually is a duke. He just like doesn't, some stuff happened in his past and he just doesn't take that title. But you know, they go into court, they do what they gotta do, and a lot of stuff unfolds. It was very, very good. I liked it a lot. It got 4.5 stars. I actually just finished the sequel this morning. As of recording this, I just finished the sequel, The Hemlock Queen, and I'll talk about that next month. But let me not say too much. But yeah, so The Foxglove King, big surprise, the biggest surprise of the month for sure, got 4.5 stars. Okay, so that's my whole June reading wrap up. Obviously the best book of the month was Rhythms Blues, the only 5 of the month. If y'all want you a nice romance book with some intense spiciness in it, then go pick up that book. Go pick up anything by Kimberly Brown. Go pick up a Kimberly Brown book right now. You'll love it. I promise you. You will actually love it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like the video and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Turn on your notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.